Hello there, welcome back to the show Living Life Trauma Free. Okay, so today I want to talk to you about trauma and trust. Trust and trauma, trauma and trust. I'm going to take you to a beach called White Sand Beach, which is a spectacular beach here on Koh Chang. I'm going to take a ride down, show you a couple of the views on the way, and I'm going to talk to you about the effects of trust and trauma, especially in these challenging times. But before I do that, I want to show you this magnificent flower we have in our garden. Isn't it gorgeous? The colour. And let me just pan out a little bit. This is how the actually overall size of the plant. It's actually quite a big plant. Okay, bike is ready, let's go. Okay, I've messed up because I'm in a public area. I am smiling at you, but I just wanted to show you this view because it is absolutely awesome. But also what I wanted to say as well was, on Koh Chang, you should never ride a bike. Never ever ride a bike if you are not an experienced motorbike rider. I've just seen two girls come off, they've got passengers on the back, the bikes are damaged, which they're going to have to pay for, their legs and arms are all scratched up. It's not a way to enjoy your holiday break. That's better. Note to self, on Koh Chang, do not ride a bike unless you are an experienced rider. But check out the view, it is awesome. The larger island has been bought by Seaview. They're going to use it as a sports centre, leisure centre. They have a hotel which is directly just behind these trees, which I use a lot for the spa, which is staggering. 10 years ago we used to have a little bungalow here, which we saw, it was just directly below here. So we would have this view every day. We lived there for a couple of years, back in 2010. Yes, I made it down to White Sands. I'm just treating myself to a pancake, but no, not banana and chocolate, mango and Nutella. Wow, there is so much chocolate on this pancake that's quite incredible. I've never seen so much Nutella on a pancake before, but my god, that's going to be nice. The sun is incredibly bright. It's incredibly hot. This is one of those beaches that you have to be very careful on when you swim. So this is White Sands Beach. I've just cheekily snuck into one of the resorts to sit on their chairs to eat my pancake. So this is Nutella and mango. Normally I go for banana, but that is lovely. Really, really nice. So I wanted to talk to you about trust and trauma. Trauma and trust. This is a big subject, so I'm just going to cover it very lightly and talk about my perception of trust and trauma. Now, when you are deep into survival, deep into trauma, you're living your life through what I call a traumatized mind. So you have a traumatized filter that sees the world through all of the time. It can be very difficult to trust people. It can be very difficult to trust situations when you're at work, personal relationships, family relationships. It's very complicated. I remember when I was experiencing trauma, and I'd have experienced it for years and years and years, 30, 40 years. Do you want this seat? Do you want the seat? Oh, okay. Cup and cup. I'd been experiencing it for, 40 years. It was so ingrained to my personality that I didn't realise that there was another way, that I could trust people, I could trust situations. And what started to happen was, as I started to gently unfold trauma, and see it for what it was, how it had deeply ingrained itself into my personality, I was then able to take ownership of what was happening around me. So that before that flipped on its head, I didn't trust situations, I didn't trust people, I really, really struggled. Trust was a big issue for me. I always used to come at it from the point of view of I'd already assumed that people were bad, that people were not to be trusted. So I went into a conversation or a relationship with the point of view of that you're already bad, you've got to prove to me otherwise that you're good. So that is how I live my life. That's what I built my behaviour around. And that's because of complex trauma that I'd experienced throughout my life, particularly when I was growing up. When I started to release that grip of trauma, what happened is I realised that I was personally responsible as an adult for my own personal safety. So I was responsible for the conversations I was having. I was responsible for how I conducted myself at work. This really changed the dynamic of trust and trauma for me, because then I learnt that trust actually was in my control. I didn't have to be a victim, which is how my behaviour was before. I was very much a victim. I was really, really stuck. As I said, I was seeing everybody through that lens of, well, you've got to prove yourself to me because you're all bad. But this is what trauma does. It creates such a strong defense mechanism in your beliefs, in your identity, in your personality, that you just think that's normal, right? And it's not. I learned a lot later on that actually isn't normal. And that's when I really stepped out of the traumatized mind and I stepped into connecting with the woman it is that I truly am. Now, I know that is people say this a lot, but it's so true. It's an inside out job. To move into a space of being able to trust people is about reclaiming your personal power as a woman and realizing that you're in control of situations, conversations, sometimes environments. You don't have to be a victim to your feelings and your emotions, because what often happens is when you are distrusting, it basically means that you have been emotionally triggered and emotionally hijacked. If you don't know about emotional triggering or emotional hijacked, just click the video above now and you'll get an explanation from me as to what the difference is between being hijacked and being triggered. They are quite different to one another. So I was emotionally in a constant triggered state, a constant alert state. Someone asked me the other day, what's the difference between, what's it like living with depression? And I explained it as, when you're not living in depression, you see things in the light, you see the possibilities, the opportunities. When you're living with depression, everything seems grey, dark, negative. You don't see the possibilities, you don't see the opportunities, you don't see the colour. You just see the negative of all of the situation that's happening around you. You see the world through a very different coloured filter. It's almost like the colour has been turned down on the world. It's not as bright and as vibrant as it should be. And I think trust is a bit like that. Trust is when you are living in the shadow, when you're not living in the possibility and the opportunity, but you are living trapped in the shadow of the trauma. And it's all to do with the traumatized mind. So if you haven't got my book, I'm just finishing it. It will be out shortly. I've just finished the draft of the second chapter. I tell you what, the last 10 pages felt like I was in the abyss. Every time I just was writing, and then I'd keep looking and it'd be still 10 pages and I'd just be like, whoa, I've been sucked in. But anyway, what's the book called? I've got to plug my own business, right? Or my own book. It's called Be More Wolf, A Survivor's Story, Breaking the Trauma Cycle. And it's really what I'm sharing with you about. You can regain that sense of inner power. You can regain that connection with trust. When you step out of a traumatized mind, when you start to recover and start to heal, what used to bother you before doesn't bother you anymore. So trust for me is no longer an issue because I go in, I don't have that stinking thinking, that mindset that I used to have. I come from a pure love, compassion space in my mindset rather than you're going to hurt me, you're talking about me, you don't like me, you're just tolerating me. You know, all the negative self-talk which is associated with distrust, and all the beautiful love, compassion, kindness, forgiveness coming into that space when you connect with somebody. Now, I'm absolutely baking because the sun is going down. Hopefully you can actually see me because I can't see myself because it's so hot. But yeah, I'm going to take you to another view now on Koh Chang, which is much quieter than this one, but it's still very beautiful because you have a depth of field shot of the island, which I think you will appreciate and enjoy. Such a beautiful day. Lovely. With the sun just starting to go down. Check out how long the beach is. So the view I'm going to take you to a bit later on is right down at the tip. So here we are. I wanted to show you this awesome view of the island. You wait. It's stunning. Oh, water's as flat as a pancake. Super clear. Nice little location down the end of Kai Bay. On the way to White Sands. There is something really romantic about Thai houses. I'm so lucky to live my life. I always think of living with trauma as being in recovery, a bit like an alcoholic or being addicted to drugs. Hello, beautiful. Hey, meow meow. Hello, pretty. Yeah, as I was just saying, I think of trauma recovery as ongoing. It's an ongoing process. It's an ongoing journey. You don't just suddenly go, oh, I've recovered my trauma and that's it. There will be periods throughout your life where shit hits the fan, something will come up again, and you'll be taken by surprise. So I like to think as trauma recovering as healing, as trauma recovery, that you're in recovery. You know, when you've been living with things for like 40, 50 years, 30 years, 20 years, it's a long time to live with something and then to quickly, all of a sudden, recover. It doesn't quite work like that. Although energetically you will feel much healthier, you will feel much lighter. I think as trauma recovery.